Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn on your notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I'm saying a very big shout out to every one of you for the love, the support you all shower me here with. I am grateful, and you all are super sweet. To all my members, I am grateful. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about a video a white man actually came out to say that most of the problem America is facing now is black privilege. And I was like, wait, when did black privilege start, and when did he, why is it that I do not know about black privilege? So while he was talking about that, he actually decided to bring in Asian community into the discussion. Why? Because he was thinking that Asian community are also going to back him up with his claims and all that. And then the almighty JJ actually came out to call him out, and Asian people also backed JJ up to call him out. And most of his claims, and most of the things he claimed on his video was like, black people are also peeping Asian Americans and all that. Man, this video is just where you see a red seasoned white man trying to make claims he is not sure of. And most of the claims he actually made, he did not even back them up. He did not even do enough research and all that. But trust JJ and the rest of the Asians with their, well-researched, they did their research very well and actually came out and debunked the whole thing. And they were like, we actually hate debunking, especially when it comes to this man. And then knowing the fact that a lot of people actually like this young man's video, and a lot of people dropped comments. Pop-colored people dropped comments like saying that he is being right and all that. Really got me thinking, why is it that some of them don't know or don't like reading? Why is it that they are so shallow-minded that, you can easily deceive them? I am rolling this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. So straight up, let's get it.
Let's be totally honest. One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege. For example, last month in Georgia, a black man shot and killed 4 elderly white people. The town it happened in hadn't seen a single homicide since 2018. And yet despite all of this, no one really seems to care. The story barely got any national news coverage. But when the races were reversed and a similar incident happened in Florida, there was a national outcry. Or what about when 6 black men attacked and robbed over 100 Asian women in San Francisco? Can you even imagine what would happen if 6 white men did that? Now, amazingly, in San Francisco, 85% of the physical assault crimes involve an Asian victim and a black perpetrator. And that's incredible because black people make up less than 6% of the population there. And yet for some reason, you'll never hear a Stop Asian Hate activist mention that. They'll blame white supremacy instead. There are literally hundreds of stories like this that you never hear about. Take, for example, James Lee Ramsey. Last year, he was convicted for assaulting an elderly Asian man, and despite the crime, he served less than a year in jail. So he was released from jail, and last month, he assaulted another elderly Asian person, this time an 88-year-old woman. But it's not just the elderly. An Asian high schooler was recently hospitalized after a black classmate stabbed him for fun. A few weeks ago, 6 black kids beat up a 15-year-old white kid for his shoes. Bystanders watched and recorded the whole thing. No one stepped in. This is terrible. Innocent people across America are being attacked, robbed, and even killed, and yet no one seems to really care because the people disproportionately causing it all have a certain skin color. And because everyone is afraid of being called racist, these incidents will just keep happening and nothing will change. The only way things will get better is if we start being honest about what's really going on. Let's be totally honest. One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
Let's be totally honest, by the time I'm done with this video, he should be legally barred from ever using the word honest ever again. Since we're from the same city and around the same age, I think I should introduce myself in the downright worst way possible. Let's begin.
For example, last month in Georgia, a black man shot and killed 4 elderly white people. The town it happened in hadn't seen a single homicide since 2018. And yet despite all of this, no one really seems to care. The story barely got any national news coverage. But when the races were reversed and a similar incident happened in Florida, there was a national outcry.
Let's just pause for a second and realize that 267,000 of you liked this video. I consider you all irredeemable. Do you know why? Level 1, let's assume that everything he mentions in this video, including this scenario, is exactly as he represents it. I mentioned in a recent video that black people have had at least 1,500 anti-black hate crimes committed against them every year since 1991. That is the most out of any demographic in this country. If I sat in front of you with a tie on like I am right now and read through 7 instances of these hate crimes, I could easily paint the narrative that the biggest problem in America today is white privilege. But somehow one guy spouting off 6 individual instances is enough to prove his point. Level 2, his main gripe seems to be that we hear about these instances when they happen to black people, but never when black people are the perpetrators. And if I grant you that, you want to know what else we don't hear about? The vast majority of murders. That is because they literally happen every single day. So cherry picking 6 examples and assuming that the reason why we didn't hear about them is because the race of the perpetrator is downright bullshit and you have no justification for it. Level 3, and this is where it gets bad. Remember when I said assuming that every situation is exactly as he represents it? Hey, remember this first video that I made about him where he literally got caught lying about the studies and sources that he's using in his own video that would have been debunked if he just finished reading the sources that he used in his own video? Why am I telling you this as if it's leading up to something? Well, no reason. It's cause he did it again. Oh my god, you can't make this. He took this screen grab from the article and put it in his video. I copy and pasted it and came to this article in the AP. Hey, remember where the whole point of the video is that when black people kill white people, no one hears about it, but then when white people kill black people, everyone hears about it? Like, that's the entire fucking purpose of the video? Like, that's the whole reason why he made the fucking video, to prove that black privilege was a thing? So if we read the AP article, here's the sentence where it says Hampton had not had a previously recorded homicide since 2018, the part that he put in his video. Guess what the fuck happens when you scroll down? Longmore, the black person who shot the white people, had needed mental help for nearly a decade, but his family and officials couldn't force him to get the treatment. He had a mental breakdown in 2014, leading to an inpatient hospital stay. This is some more information about the shooter. Notice how we don't have any information about any motive besides the fact that he had severe mental health problems. We especially don't have a motive of race anywhere. Well, let's hop back over to the video and find this other headline. But hold on one second. Keen-eyed viewers, or frankly fucking eyed viewers, could see that it says 3 people dead after gunmen targeted black people in Jacksonville, Florida. Officials say. Guess what the fuck's in the article? This shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people, the sheriff of Jacksonville said. You see why all of y'all are irredeemable? He left behind 3 manifestos for why he did the shooting. Even Ron the shithead said that he was targeting people based off of race. And that guy fucking hates African American studies. By the way, he killed only black people in a majority black neighborhood and he had a fucking swastika on his gun. The fuck is this here for then? When it gets even worse from here, because I'm not gonna talk about your video anymore. If I went through every instance you misrepresented, I could probably blow you the fuck out of the water for 20 minutes. But it seems as though lying is not just something that Daniel does in his spare time when he's trying to rant about how black people are kind of evil. It seems to spill over into the real world and it has really dangerous consequences. Since Daniel over here has been going on a media tour since 2022, getting featured on Fox News, posting videos like this entitled CNN Dissed Me, and even getting to speak with Tucker Carlson based off of a failure to Google something. When I say fail to, I don't mean it was an accidental miscalculation. You don't read half an AP article and specifically not read the other half that tells you exactly why you're wrong by fucking accident. I mean a stroke of ignorance so irrational it has to be deliberate. JJ, what are you talking about? Spit it out already. You see, in the winter of 2022, there was a class at the University of Chicago that was scheduled to be taught entitled The Problem of Whiteness. This seems to have confused Daniel. I mean, every time he talks about it, he says,
Now, this class stood out to me because, what is it implying? That there's a problem of being white, or there's a problem of white people or whiteness or whatever?
Just based off that title, what is that suggesting? That there's a problem of white people or whiteness? I mean, it's totally racist, it's totally bizarre.
And college is meant for critical thinking and honest engagement. If you're anything like me and you see a provocatively titled college course, what do? You could email the professor and ask what the class is about. You could go into their office hours and have a discussion with them one-on-one. You could enroll in a class just to see what it's about, and if you don't like it, drop it and contact your advisor. Or pull your professor to the side and talk to them and voice your grievances about the course. What do you think Daniel did? He took to his 50,000 follower Twitter account, cried anti-white racism, and posted the professor's picture along with her email. Then he began the media tour, being featured on Charlie Kirk, Newsmax, and the Daily Wire. Elon Musk responded to him. And you know what's been going on this whole time since? A professor has been receiving death threats. Just pause to read some of these. Mind you, Daniel has already been fired from a news publication over harassment of a coworker. And as a result of this news story, Professor Journey received upwards of 80 threatening emails, and this article was published months ago. She has had to take extraordinary safety precautions just to teach a class on campus normally. And he has yet to stop talking about it to this day. Now question, do you think any of these fuckwits actually Googled what the problem of whiteness would entail? Do you think any of these fuckwits actually realize that the field of whiteness studies has been long since substantiated, and if you have a problem with it, then you can take it up with the literature and the scholars who are responsible for the field? Do you think Daniel ever spoke to her about what the course is actually saying, seeing as he seems to be so confused about whether or not the course is saying there's a problem with white people? They fucking didn't, so I did. When we spoke, I made sure to get a rundown of what the course is generally about. She informed me that the class is about historicizing whiteness as a system of power, authority, and control, and how it structures our world and structural inequality. The class looks at the system of whiteness, not the problem with white people. The title of the course, while provocative, is an artistic reference. It's a callback to W.E.B. Du Bois's famous question, how does it feel to be a problem, he posed in 1903. It also alludes to a documentary in the 60s featuring James Baldwin that discusses how white people created the N-word, therefore it is white people's problem to sort it out. She made clear to me that the subcaption of the course is really the problem with white supremacy. This field of study is not just white people bad, nor is it new. It is backed up by over a century's worth of historical scholarship. Some things that they look at is the fact that white people just assume they are just white and not racialized like everyone else in the society when they are, and they explain how that is. They look at practices like redlining, food deserts, housing discrimination, the effects of white supremacy in law. It also looks at critiques of white feminism, and it touches on the topics of intersectionality. Or fucking any anthropological or sociological course in existence if you're in college. I pulled that much information from simply talking to the professor, and I don't even go to that school. But talking and engaging honestly is never what it was about. It's about propping Daniel up as another face of the culture war while being too fucking stupid or willfully ignorant to actually read past a headline, which is exactly what the fuck he did here. Rebecca is the second professor I've talked to in the last 2 months that are facing threats to their life and safety because of a course that they decided to teach, and the people who are too idiotic to actually look at what they're saying. So as long as people like Daniel exist, I will be here to make goofies out of all of you for endangering the lives of people who are doing their jobs and dedicating way more time and effort into these topics than you ever have for anything in your lives. Daniel, I hope you enjoyed the media tour. Good day.
Let's be totally honest. One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
Are we delusional? Black privilege? Here we go.
Last month in Georgia, a black man shot and killed 4 elderly white people. The story barely got any national news coverage. But when the races were reversed and a similar incident happened in Florida, there was a national outcry.
Oh my god. Well, perchance, is there context surrounding both events that explains why the former wasn't described as an act of black supremacy?
The first one doesn't seem like a targeted attack because the dude literally lived there. Like he was neighbors with all of the victims.
You might say, well, you don't know if the one in Jacksonville was racially motivated.
This shooting was racially motivated and he hated black people, according to Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters.
You might say, well, how on earth could you know that?
Well, apparently right before the shooting, he texted his father to check his computer, where his father found manifestos. Very specifically went to a Dollar General right next to a historically black school.
Also, by the way, I don't know if you know this,
There are a lot of mass shootings in the United States. Most of them do not make national news.
What about when 6 black men attacked and robbed over 100 Asian women in San Francisco? Can you even imagine what would happen if 6 white men did that?
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I wonder what would happen.
I bet they'd get arrested and charged with hate crimes. I bet the governor of the state would immediately hold a press conference in that city about hate crimes against that community. I bet at least one of them would be facing up to 95 years in prison.
Side note, if you're about to argue that this would result in some sort of national outcry if these were 6 white men, I would like you to please name me one robbery. Any robbery. Unless you kill someone or steal the Mona Lisa, robberies do not make national headlines or result in public outcry. So I'd like to know what exactly would be happening to those 6 white men that are not happening to these 6 black men.
Amazingly, in San Francisco, 85% of the physical assault crimes involve an Asian victim and a black perpetrator.
Daniel, I've responded to you a few times on this app, and you have a habit of using sources that directly contradict you, but this is the very first time that you are contradicted not by the source, but by the blurb that you put over your face.
This does not say 85% of all physical assault crimes. This says that in a 2008 survey by the police department in which they analyzed 300 strong armed robberies, 85% of the physical assault crimes in these strong arm robberies, the victims were Asians and the perpetrators were African American.
A strong arm robbery is what it sounds like. It's like snatching an iPhone out of somebody's hand and running away. So we're looking at a very specific crime, robberies, and then a very specific subset of that crime, strong arm robberies, so not armed robberies, and then an extremely specific subset of that, because we're only looking at 300 of them, and then an even more specific subset of that, because we're only looking at those robberies that resulted in physical assault crimes, because a robbery by itself is not assault. Which means we are looking at a subset of a subset of a subset of one specific crime. And this is a very fun thing in statistics. Sometimes if you look at hyper-specific categories,
You'll find some very odd patterns that are very clearly coincidences, like the age of Miss America title holders compared to the murders by steam, hot vapor, or other hot objects.
but none of that even really matters because, by the way, this study doesn't even exist.
Here's the article on sfgate.com that mentions it. This survey is completely unnamed. It is not cited in any way, shape, or form. In looking for this survey, the only thing that comes up is this article that mentions it and other people referencing that news article.
There is no way to find out what robberies they were looking at, which precinct was doing this survey to begin with, or if this even happened, because this information, even if it exists, is not public.
I really doubt this statistic is legitimate because it seems to directly contradict the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which says that out of the 829,000 violent crimes against Asian Americans, 191,000 of them were by black perpetrators, which is a lot less than 75%. Secondly, San Francisco Police Department does not keep race data on its victims or on its perpetrators. It's nowhere in any of their crime dashboards.
You know what, let's give the benefit of the doubt and assume that this statistic is completely accurate, even though it definitely isn't, and try to ask ourselves, why would it be that such a high percentage of the perpetrators against Asian victims would be African American? First, let's look at the nature of the crime itself, a strong arm robbery, where you're using your physical strength to steal an object off of somebody's person. This requires that, one, you are able to overpower and outrun your victim because you do not have a weapon, and two, that you do not have anything specifically in mind. You're not robbing a store, you're just taking whatever it is they have in their pockets. The latter shows that this is very clearly not a crime of passion. This is a crime of poverty, which means individuals that are more likely to experience poverty will be more likely to commit these very specific crimes. The nature of the crime itself also means that you're going to be more likely to target someone that you are more confident you are able to overpower or outrun, like the weak or the elderly. So a race with a large senior population will be more likely to be targeted. And crimes of poverty are also crimes of proximity, because it's difficult to travel long distances. So you're most likely going to be committing these crimes to people that are near you. And in quite a lot of urban centers, Asian communities and black communities are right next to each other, if not in the same place.
Right here is Chinatown and Two Bridges, the two largest Asian population centers in Manhattan. If you take a look at the map of the housing projects in New York City, 90% of the residents of whom are black or Hispanic, you'll notice that the largest chunk are here in Harlem, but the next largest bundle are right down here, right next to Chinatown and Two Bridges.
And if you live in New York City, you know that Chinatown is also a lot of old people. If you pass any park in Chinatown at, say, 8 in the morning, you will see 100 different old Chinese women doing aerobics. I always want to join in. They're like 80 years old and they have so many friends. All these things together make it seem a lot more likely that we'd end up with a statistic like this. Now, granted, I'm not as familiar with San Francisco as I am New York.
However, if this is Chinatown over here, and if this is a map of the public housing in San Francisco, it does look very similar. If this specific statistic from niche.com is correct, that means 25% of San Francisco's Chinatown is above the age of 65, which actually makes them the largest age cohort.
But obviously the thing this guy is trying to imply here is that black people hate Asian people. So let's even give him the fact that there might be animosity between these two groups. Now let's try to ask ourselves, why might it be that this animosity exists? I would wager that a large contributing factor to this would be the fact that quite a lot of white people will use Asian people as a way to dismiss black people's struggles. White people love pointing at Asian people and going, look, see, they made it, they're successful, therefore all the things that you're going through are actually just your fault.
If there's white privilege, then there has to be Asian privilege, because Asians make more money than whites.
And if you keep doing this, obviously it's going to build animosity between these two groups, which means that the solution to this animosity would be, one, not scapegoating Asians as a way to deflect from real-world issues, and two, trying to improve the material conditions of black people so there isn't this disparity to begin with. But you didn't do either of those two things. You just made a 2-minute TikTok in which you just showed a bunch of different news articles and basically said, wow, these black people need to be stopped. Do we understand how that's not gonna help?
Take, for example, James Lee Ramsey. Last year, he was convicted for assaulting an elderly Asian man, and despite the crime, he served less than a year in jail.
I'm sorry. You're making a video about black privilege, and you bring up The length of a prison sentence?
You have to know that black people on average receive longer sentences than white perpetrators. On average, 19% longer, according to the United States Sentencing Commission, who go on to say that violence in an offender's criminal history does not appear to account for any of the demographic differences in sentencing. You found like one guy and were like, wow, this sentence doesn't seem that long, and thought that like undid the mountains of evidence that show this disparity? This also isn't even that crazy. It was an assault charge, he pled guilty, he was sentenced to 3 years, and then yeah, was released on probation about a year later. That's really not that uncommon.
But it's not just the elderly. An Asian high schooler was recently hospitalized after a black classmate stabbed him for fun.
Alright, so this is the point of the video where he clearly just Googled black crime and found every news article he could from the past 2 years in which a black person did something. This is not an argument.
A few weeks ago, 6 black kids beat up a 15-year-old white kid for his shoes. Bystanders watched and recorded the whole thing. No one stepped in.
Do you think this is unique to black people doing something? This is like a documented thing. It's called the bystander effect, where the larger the group is, the less people actually become to actually do anything. Because if a single individual asks to do something, then the sense of responsibility will be strong. But if a group of people are asked together, then each individual in the group will have a weak sense of responsibility. We made a whole TV show about this.
How you doing? It's what would you do?
No way.
By the way, I guess while we're talking about bystanders and viewing black or white perpetrators,
She seems annoyed by all the noise he's making, but says nothing. Now U-Ball is back. Or no one has directly confronted him. Just too good at thief. But what if now we swap out our thief, Kevin, or Gabriel? First up, these two sisters, who immediately notice that something's not quite right here.
Excuse me? Excuse me! Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, this is my car.
No, it isn't.
Here we are. Stand here. Show me your hands. What are you doing? Oh, this is my car. You thought it was your car? Yeah, that was my car. How do we get the bag? It's just my laptop. What kind of car is this? It's Tell me what kind of car it is. Huh? It's your car? Yeah. It's a Chrysler? Yeah. I'm gonna ask you to step out. You're gonna step out.
The only way things will get better is if we start being honest about what's really going on.
look, Daniel, I once responded to a guy on this app that said black people were biologically criminals. You're not there, but you're getting really close.
Let's be totally honest. One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
I really don't like doing debunking videos, especially when it's people like this, but it's really going to bug me if I don't get it out of the way first.
For example, last month in Georgia, a black man shot and killed 4 elderly white people.
He's referring to a black veteran who's diagnosed with PTSD and schizophrenia and had no indication of wanting to kill white people. Even so, he was hunted down and shot by the cops the next day.
And despite all of this, no one really seems to care. The story barely got any national news coverage. But when the races were reversed and a similar incident happened in Florida, there was a national outcry.
The similar incident was a planned act of white supremacy. I don't think I need to get deeper than that.
Or what about when 6 black men attacked and robbed over 100 Asian women in San Francisco? Can you even imagine what would happen if 6 white men did that?
74.5% of anti-Asian crimes are committed by white people. And I don't think this is new information for my followers, but anti-black hate crimes are still almost 3 times as prevalent as the next one down. Now I want you guys to understand why these videos work so well. They obviously appeal to outright racist people, but it's deeper than that. Using the oppressed as the scapegoat for the oppressor's problems doesn't just give them a narrative that reinforces their already existing power, but it gives them a worldview that's simply easier to hold. For members of the oppressor group to aid in the deconstruction of whatever oppressive hierarchy, they need to acknowledge both the privilege that they have and their ability to do harm, which often requires recognizing the harm that they have done. I'm sure you understand how much easier it is to just ignore responsibility and direct all blame and attention to your designated scapegoat. In fact, the scapegoating of the oppressed by the oppressor functions like a parent having a designated scapegoat child. The scapegoating parent, who is typically the power holder in the family system and therefore in control of the family narrative, often has a story about their child that they are quick to share with anyone who will listen. A story whereby they are good and their scapegoated child is difficult, a problem, bad, and somehow innately defective. This distorted narrative designed to elevate the parent and demean the child is shared within and outside of the family, resulting in siblings, extended relatives, and friends of the family viewing the scapegoated child through the same distorted negative lens.
Problems in America right now is black privilege.
Are we delusional?
So, Yuval, this guy's not just delusional, he's the most racist content creator that posts, like, not even dog whistles on this app. Like the shit that this Daniel guy posts, I stitched one of his videos like half a year ago. The video I stitched of this Daniel guy about a half a year ago was of him pulling up one of the least populated, most rural towns in America and saying that because their crime rate was so incredibly low compared to a place like Atlanta, one of the most populated cities in the US, that the reason that rural place has such a low crime rate is because it has like a 97% white population. And that was just his entire video. Had hundreds of thousands of likes on it, and people in the comment section agree. But like, if you want to find racists on this app, check that man's followers.
One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
He goes on to mention that there have been numerous attacks done by black people to other races such as white and Asian, but no one says anything because no one wants to be labeled as racist. And while I'm not going to deny or negate that those things do happen and are wrong, let's not pretend that those same things don't occur in other communities, especially those of the kind. For example, this black woman right here by the name of Michelle Peacock was murdered this year by a man. No, not because she did something wrong, but because he thought that she was a man pretending to be a woman. Also this year and more recently, a racist man tried to open fire at an HBCU, but when that didn't work out, he drove to the nearest dollar store and unalived 3 black people. Oh, not because they did something wrong, but just because they were black and he doesn't like black people. And on the topic of historically black colleges, let's also pull out the elephant in the room, how majority of school pews are carried out by people. Not even schools, but also black churches, black businesses, and if you're lucky, you'll be like this guy and get served Burger King after committing a heinous crime. Unlike some of us who aren't so privileged due to our skin color. And what all of those instances have in common is that they rarely got any news coverage, and if they did, they were given some one week and then forgotten about the next week. Meanwhile, we spent a good chunk of the summer obsessing over rich billionaires who spent over $250,000 just to meet their demise at the bottom of the ocean. But what tickles my fanny about this whole thing is the fact that he uses those select few instances of black people committing crimes to label the entire race as privileged. But when black folk do that to the people, we get told that we're crazy, we're wrong, or we're racist. Because you know, it's not good to generalize people, even though he generalized us as people who get to commit crimes and get away with them when that's not the case. And I'm not going to act like he speaks for all people because he doesn't, but there were a lot of people that agree with his sentiment and that concerned me more. So in closing, stop calling people privileged if you can't even call out your own. And stop labeling that as our biggest problem in society if you can't even call out our debt crisis, our housing crisis, the issues going on with our education system, etc. And notice how I had to censor myself throughout majority of this video because unfortunately my privilege doesn't allow me to say certain words that might trigger you, otherwise I'll get banned.
One of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
You just never heard of, like, mass shootings? The possibility of nuclear war? Inflation? Mitch McConnell? You've never heard of those things? Yeah, it's a really stupid statement. You know, I heard the biggest problem in Russia is the potholes in their roads? Like, come on, man.
Honest, one of the biggest problems in America right now is black privilege.
Who keeps giving these people platforms? Why are people... Why... It's not guns. It's not pedophilia. It's not too much power in the church. Do me a favor, Diet Tucker Carlson. Shut the fuck up.
Problems in America right now is black privilege.
I really don't like doing debunking.
So go watch that creator's video. It's really good. But this got me thinking about, the relationship between the black community and the white community, at least here in America. I can't really speak globally or for other groups of people of color. But with the black community, I always thought that our relationship to the white community is a very narcissistic, codependent one, or at least it has that dynamic or many similarities. The black community is always trying to convince the white community we're human. We want to be equal. Please just see us as human. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll do this, And then you have the white community responding in a very narcissistic way. What are you talking about? I do treat you like a human. You are a human. Racist? Racism. Yeah. You know, in fact, I think you guys may be the racists. Yeah. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, remember that one time where your cousins jumped my cousin Jethro? Yeah. That's violence. Think of all the black men that are in jail for violence and drugs. Those are results of their choices, right? Right? Then we respond with, well, it's because of centuries of slavery, Jim Crow, prison industrial complex, prison systems, the black community being concentrated in these pressure cookers called ghetto areas, lack of adequate education on purpose because you are black. And it's because of all of these. Why do you keep bringing up the past? Like, every time we get past it, we're in a new day now. You keep talking about the past. Maybe it's just maybe you're in the position that you're in because it's a result of your own choices and your community's choices. It's the gaslighting for me. It's everything for me. But I've always thought the black community and the white community, we're living and have been living a narcissistic, as if we were in a narcissistic relationship. Point blank, period. It's just so similar. And maybe I can just be imagining things in my head. I mean, I was in an actual narcissistic relationship before. And I cannot help but draw these parallels. Yeah. One more point. So what do they tell you to do to narcissists? What's the best way to combat narcissism? Don't respond. But the insidious part about it is if you don't respond as a black person in this dynamic, that can mean your life. That can mean serious imminent danger, lack of resources. It sucks, but it's true. But I feel like a lot of black people, including myself, are just getting to the point where it's like, I'm just going to stop responding. I think not too long ago, this girl, I forget her name, but she came out with a book, Why She Stopped Talking to White People About Racism. Because it's like talking to a narcissist about the problems they created and that their lack of effort in correcting them. They're just going to gaslight you, turn it around on you, scapegoat, as he was talking about, the original poster was talking about in this video, scapegoat you, especially with other people of color, right? Scapegoat, triangulate with other people of color, get them against you. They're going to go on a smear campaign. This is all narcissistic behavior. It's narcissistic. It's narcissism. That's what we're dealing with as a black community. Narcissism. White capitalist, white supremacist, narcissism. And from what I've heard, there's no cure for narcissism, babes. So what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. And yes, I'm using a filter because, damn, it's 12. I should probably be up by now. But anyway, I didn't expect to make a video today, but I did. Thank you, sir, for putting that video up.
A similar incident happened in Florida. There was a national outcry.
This is true. I've been saying this for a while. We absolutely maximize when white people do something racist, and we absolutely minimize when black people do.
So this is all I got from the stitches, and you know, he actually dragged Asians into this because he was kind of waiting for them to back him up. That's why he decided to bring black people into Asian also community and also his own community, but it did not go the way he wanted it. I mean, it's just, sometimes I really do not like also talking to them about racism because they come all defensive and come like, you know, I don't know why they are always very defensive and very uncomfortable when we talk about racism and how, I mean, racism works and how we cannot. I remember somebody telling me that I told the person that I do not even hold any power to be racism to you, and the person was like, you come from an okay family, and for that reason you have all the power. Coming from a white person. It was at that point that I said, I am sorry, you really have to, I have explained this to you several times, but you do have to go back and read, because maybe when you read by yourself, you may comprehend, but sometimes it looks like comprehension is quite difficult for them and the rest of it. When he mentioned where a black man shot people, it was because he had mental health. That got nothing to do with racial. It was not a racial violence or something. It was because he was having a mental breakdown and all that. And at the same time, it is also time they start taking mental issues, because I found out that when something happened to or when a black person does something and he has mental problem, they do not regard it. I mean, black people's mental health is just like nothing to them. But when it is them that had mental problem or mental breakdown, I mean, they tell you that this person has been having or got mental breakdown, like, you know, they try to emphasize on it and also try to beat around it for so long. And making you understand that why this person did this was because of his mental health. But black people do not get that opportunity and the rest of it. So yeah, I am happy that JJ and the rest of the Asians also all, I mean, called him out on his bullshit. And now to tell you something, this young man has huge followers. And each time I look at him, I go to his comment section and you see people like him. The other lady called him diet talker cousin, and that is what he is. I mean, you see that at his young age already, that he is, I mean, his rate to the season is like all over. I mean, you can feel it, you can see it, because most of the time, what he does some crazy content on black people. But then that is not even my problem. I don't care if he likes, let him feed his followers with grass. If they choose to accept, that is their problem. But I have problem with most of them. Most of them do not read. They don't want to actually expatiate, like, you know, I mean, try to read further to understand some certain things. Once they see something from someone that acts like them, it is just all over. I mean, it is okay. They accept you. And yeah, this is where I am going to draw the curtain. Thank you so much for the support, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye for now.